Hey loves, Cassie here. So this week on the blog in honor of Mother's Day, I'm getting a little personal and I'm talking about my infertility journey. So if you've been with me long, you know that infertility is something I struggled with for a long time, and I did in fact have my twin babies about a year and a half ago. So Mother's Day always brings up a lot of emotions for me, and I know that it brings up a lot of emotions for a lot of other people. Maybe because you've been trying to conceive as well and been struggling with it, or perhaps maybe you've lost a mother or lost a child. There are a lot of reasons why people struggle with this holiday, so I just like to bring a little bit of attention to that and just kind of honor wherever you're at in this journey, and say it's okay if you're feeling a little off or feeling some loss or grief on this Mother's Day. So I've realized that this blog post is very specific, and so it may not resonate with all of you. So I did share another blog post on the blog about, it's an older one, but it's about connecting with the Triple Goddess. And I also share a free printable in that blog for a Triple Goddess wall hanging. So if that's something that's resonating with you a little bit more, you can check that out on the blog by searching Triple Goddess or in our stories. And for those of you that are interested for learning some spiritual tools or a little bit more about my journey and experience with infertility, you can keep listening and learn a little bit more about that. So the blog post is long. I mean, I could probably write an entire book about this topic. A little bit about my story personally. I did struggle with infertility for about 4 years, and I tried everything under the sun. I mean, if you've been on this path long, you can probably relate to this. I tried nutrition changes, herbs, supplements, massage, acupuncture, therapy, and eventually I did turn to more modern Western medicine and tried IUI and eventually IVF, which resulted in my twin pregnancy. So that's a little bit about kind of like the short version of the story. So in this blog post, I'm kind of sharing with you some of the things that helped me in my process and that I kind of learned from my process. So one thing I do want to kind of point out before I dive in is that infertility is so extremely personal. Everybody's journey is going to be vastly different from how you approach it, how you decide to treat it or work with it, what your outcome is. All of it is so personal and different. So I want you to take everything that I say very lightly and know that if it doesn't resonate with you, that's totally fine. This is my experience, and it's very unique and personal to me, and I hope that you can learn from it. But if there's not anything that resonates with you, that's totally okay too. So I share 5 things on the blog that really helped me in my process, or things that I learned from my process of working through infertility, and I'm going to share 3 with you right here. If you know somebody who's struggling with infertility that you think would enjoy this, feel free to pass it along, this video or the blog post. You can visit the blog at zendout.com/blog. It's the first blog post, or you can just type infertility into the search bar and it'll pull it up that way as well. So the first thing I want to suggest and offer you if you're on this path of infertility is to build an altar or a sacred space. So if you've been following me long, you can see here's my altar at work. I have one at work. I have more than one at home. Altars are a big part of my personal practice because they are a safe space to hold emotions, to hold symbols, tools that are important to you. And in my infertility journey, it was extremely important for me to have a safe space or container for some of the big emotions that are involved with infertility that maybe I didn't want to carry around with me all the time. So sometimes I would even visualize placing some of my big emotions that maybe I needed a break from or I wasn't ready to confront. I would visualize placing them in a container and putting them on my altar, knowing that I could revisit those emotions and those feelings when I was ready to, or when I had the time to dedicate to them. So that's just one of many ways to use an altar. I'll also say, and I mentioned this on the blog as well, I read somewhere in my infertility journey about creating an altar for your unborn children or unborn child. So I actually started off with that, and I will tell you, my experience did not go well. I actually tore that altar down in a fit of rage because I realized that what I needed more than anything was a safe space for myself. My unborn children did not need an altar. They were fine. I needed an altar. I needed a safe space. I needed a place to store my emotions, store my feelings, to have a place to seek solace and have respite from everything that was going on in my world related to infertility. So you can try that if it resonates with you, but for me, creating a personal altar for myself and all the big scary emotions that were wrapped up with infertility was extremely, extremely helpful. So tip number two, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about embodying the archetype of being a mother. So this one was huge for me in my journey through infertility. So this didn't happen till later on in my journey, but it dawned on me at a certain point when I was connecting with some sacred symbols and meaningful tools in my spiritual practice that I did not have to be a mother. I did not have to bear children physically to embody the archetype of being a mother. So what I mean by that is that I can be a mother, I can embody the things that go along with motherhood and being a mother in different ways. So I just began to come to a place of acceptance of being okay with being a mother without bearing children, whether that meant being a mother to my pets, whether that meant being a mother to relatives, nieces and nephews, or being a mother to people in my audience like you, where I'm sharing and teaching and embodying that energy of motherhood and mothering. And that was huge for me. So there were a couple of tools and symbols that I used to connect with the archetype of the mother. One was the triple goddess symbol, which you've probably seen on a lot of our jewelry. I have the triple goddess symbol, and this is one of the reasons why the symbol is so near and dear to my heart, because it helped me so tremendously in my infertility journey. So in the triple goddess, you have the waxing crescent, the full moon, and the waning crescent, which each represents a different phase of life. So the waxing crescent represents the maiden, the full moon represents the mother, and the waning moon represents the crone. So each of these phases reside within us at all times in our life, and we can tune into their energy at any time. The other symbol that resonated with me in my infertility journey was the rune Berkano. It's also sometimes shown as Berkana. And this one was so important to me. And this rune, it represents childbirth, creativity, creation, fulfillment, motherhood. So it really embodies a lot of what motherhood with that energy brings. I even had the rune tattooed on my finger before I had children. It was really an important part of my journey where I began to accept that I might not have children and that was okay, and I was okay with it. So those are two symbols that really, really helped me tune into the energy of motherhood, even if I didn't have children. And then the last tip that I want to share with you is kind of an esoteric one. It's almost two things bundled into one, but it's the idea of leaning into shadow, so our shadow aspects, our darker sides, and finding the lessons within the challenge. And this is one especially that may vary a lot for you. So for me, and I mentioned at the beginning of this that I did rely on therapy. I actually found a counselor and therapist who specifically worked with women who were struggling with infertility, and we did a lot of deep work, specifically with EMDR therapy, which which gave me a safe space to explore some of the darker sides of my life and some of the thought patterns that I was having, and it gave me a place to explore them, honor them, and really work through them. And for me, a lot of things that came up around my infertility journey were these ideas of unworthiness, that I was not worthy to have children, that if I wanted anything that would bring me happiness or joy, that I would have to work really, really hard for it. So those were some of the shadow elements that I was living by in my life that were possibly preventing me from conceiving, because I didn't think that I deserved to have children. So I'm not saying that working through those things was the end result of why I had children. I did go through IUI and eventually IVF, and on my third round of IVF is when I conceived my twin babies. But I do think that it was a big part of it. I really think that a lot of the things that I did and learned throughout my process, they all kind of work together to make it possible. And like I said, your journey might be completely different. Maybe you will conceive, maybe you will not. That is your story. But the tools that I share with you here today in this video and in the blog, they're more tools to find peace, find acceptance, to find the lessons in the journey so that you can learn and grow as a soul and as a spirit. So I hope that they bring you that regardless of where you're at in this process or what the end result may be. I also just want to take a moment to say that if you are walking this path, my heart is with you. I see you, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions. I am very well versed in so many things regarding infertility because, like I said, I tried so many things. I know not everybody decides to go the Western medicine route with IUI and IVF. That is the choice that I made. I have my own grievances with that process, but ultimately it did result in viable pregnancies of my twin babies with me. So I am grateful for that, but I know it's not for everybody. But if you do have questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out. If you want to check out the other 2 steps that I share, where I share some crystal allies that you can use and another tool that I still use today and used a lot during my infertility journey, please check it out on the blog at zendoubt.com/blog. Feel free to leave a comment in the comments or DM me because I do know it is a more personal thing. So if you don't want to ask a question in the comments, I totally understand, and I try to respond to all of my direct messages. So dear ones, I hope wherever you are at, you are able to have a peaceful and wonderful Mother's Day, whether that's honoring your place as a mother with your children or embodying the energy of being a mother. Even if you don't have your own children yet, you can still embody that energy of motherhood and honor this day. So sending you lots of love, my dears, and we will talk